Hi, and welcome back to Hogs Media, our Inappropriate Harry Potter podcast. My name's Christina.
And I'm Natalie, and we're looking at chapter 3 of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. And we're rereading this book as adults, so exciting stuff. There are a couple of swear words and spoilers ahead, so this is not for the faint hearted. But let's get started, shall we, Chris? So, chapter 3 is called The Invitation. Very ominous.
Yep, and this chapter's really heavy on the dieting. But also, you remember we talked about before, we talked about this a few times, how J.K. Rowling's always using people's physical characteristics to imply that they're bad people. And it's really heavy in this chapter. And one of the things I've written down is she's describing Petunia, and she says Petunia's horse-like teeth. And I was a bit like, it's not her fault. Like, it's not her fault that she looks like that. It's kind of
Yeah,
mean.
not everyone can afford braces.
Yeah. And she does it a lot, and in particularly in this chapter. So it's really heavy on the fact that Petunia is forcing Dudley to go on a diet, isn't it? And even talks about what she feeds him and how everyone's got to go along with the diet to support Dudley.
Which I thought was really sweet because it opens up, doesn't it? And Harry's loving it because basically Dudley's got the school report and he's been told, he's a bully, he's really bad at the academic side of things. And the parents are kind of defending him and they're coming up with all these things, aren't they? All these arguments. But they can't deny the fact that they no longer store knickerbockers. What's it called?
Knickerbocker, yeah, knickerbockers.
In his size. Do people know what knickerbockers are? Because that is not something that we hear a lot
I
nowadays.
thought
That
they were like
term.
those old-fashioned Victorian like knickers that went down to your knees and they were frilly. Is that what they are?
I guess so. Or I like long boxer shorts. I mean, I was thinking that ice cream, but that's a knickerbocker glory, isn't it? Where
Mm,
you've got like a glass vase with different scoops of ice cream.
yeah.
I have
It's
no idea why it's called that, by the way.
I am not sure, not sure. Um, what I realized is that J.K. Rowling uses the whole Dursley family as a comic joke, basically. And it's even really obvious in this chapter. So not only is she calling them, knickerbockers. I mean, no one wears knickerbockers anymore. That's like
No.
it's one of those words that just sounds funny, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
also she refers to Dudley as he had reached the size of roughly a young killer whale. And I was like, that's really funny. And it made
Yeah.
me realize up until this point in the book, she just uses the whole family as a joke.
Yeah, she does. I would not want to meet her. Like, can you imagine her meeting your family? She would be mentally tearing them apart.
Yeah. And it's very personal, like observations based on people's weight and their looks and their teeth and their hair and their body shape. And I just think, oh God, it's awkward because again, you can't help the way that you look. And I don't know if I love it, to be honest.
But does she do it with anyone else? Or is it like, is this her only way of almost getting revenge on how they treat Harry on his behalf? I mean, is she
Hmm.
like this with anyone else?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I don't know though, because actually later on in this chapter or the next one, they're talking about Molly Weasley, and Vernon Dudley goes, "Oh, the dumpy woman or the podgy woman or some kind of remark about her weight," and it happens as well. Do you remember Draco Malfoy makes a comment about Ron's mum being a bit chubby? And
Mm,
again, I didn't love it because I was like, "Well, why is that important?
yeah,
Like,
I
what are
guess.
we supposed to, how does that help us understand Molly Weasley's character that she's a little bit chubby? Like, how is that making us understand her more? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And what is the connotation with that? What they've picked up on that they think she's chubby, but what are they implying with that? Do
Exactly.
you know what I
Because
mean?
with the Dursleys, they imply that, Dudley's chubby because he's greedy and he's selfish and, you know, that kind of thing. And Petunia's very skinny because she's, I don't know,
She's
got a
quite
lot of
apparent.
control. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's always cleaning, and she doesn't know how to enjoy life. She's very
Yeah, that
militant.
restrictive, yeah. So on the other hand, you could be like, well, what does that tell us about Molly Weasley? So I don't know.
Yeah, I like that Harry got defensive. He didn't like it. He says something, or he thinks something like, Mr. Dursley was the last person to be calling anyone dumpy.
Yeah, that's
It
funny because he is, yeah. on the
But
large side.
But J.K. Rowling, yeah, she's attacking the Dursleys as almost a revenge, isn't she? Harry can't say any of this stuff, so she says it on his behalf. But you don't like it. It doesn't feel very nice for you, does it?
No, no, yeah, I just don't like it because people, Petunia can't help that she's got those kind of teeth and stuff, so
And you
a bit
know what?
harsh.
In some cultures, where horses are seen as beautiful creatures, that could be the height of a compliment that you look
She
like a
would be a
horse.
god, wouldn't she?
Someone be listening to this thinking, blimey, she sounds like a goddess.
Mm-hmm.
So J.K. Rowling, know your audience. Somewhere
Exactly.
in this planet, there's a country that would be very attractive.
That's true.
So
That's true. I think what this whole diet story is telling us, and I didn't realize until I was quite a bit into it, because I was just like, God, why are we having so much detail about this diet situation? And basically, Harry doesn't care that he's being force-fed like a piece of grapefruit or cottage cheese because he goes up to his room and his friends, he's now got friends, he's got Ron and Hermione and Mrs. Weasley and Hagrid have sent him food parcels, haven't they? And this
mhm.
is supposed to be a real contrast to book one, where Harry has literally no one. So he's actually being pretty much starved. He's getting cold soup put in under the door. So I was like, I think that's quite nice how we're seeing like almost it's come full circle. And all of a sudden, Harry doesn't have to rely on the Dursleys anymore because he can go up to his room and his friends have his back and they've sent him sweets and cakes and stuff. Didn't you think that was really nice?
Yeah, just thought it was really cool that he had cakes and stuff under his floorboards. I didn't realize it was the J.K. Rowling's way of trying to tell us how things have changed, but that does make sense. I love how he obviously tells them that he's going to be living off carrots, and Hermione sends him sugar-free sweets. Like, where's the canned goods? Where are the fruit and vegetables? He's going to get
Mm.
scurvy.
But then
He's
he
going to get
he has
scurvy.
just been force-fed grapefruit, to be fair, and that's got a lot of vitamin C in, so I think he might be all right.
He might be all right, but
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to eat. I love how he was like, he was saying, um, as he was eating the grapefruit, he couldn't wait to get back upstairs and have a proper breakfast with his cake. And I was like, I love that he thinks proper breakfast is cake. Now that's my kind of breakfast.
Yeah, I would be happy to eat birthday cake for breakfast. It's like one of the best breakfasts you can have, to be fair,
We have had cake for breakfast, and
numerous
it doesn't
times.
feel wrong. It feels right, and if it feels right, go with it.
Exactly. But he's not desperate enough, have you noticed, to eat Hagrid's rock cakes? He won't eat them.
Bit snobby. Is it because of
Mm.
Hagrid's hygiene? Do you think he's worried that Hagrid doesn't
Oh,
wash his
yeah.
hands?
Yeah, I just thought it's because he's a really bad cook, but actually, I'm pretty sure there's a scene where Hagrid's making them something and he gets snot in like a cup of tea or he gets dragon's blood in something. Do you remember? Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, it does. I
And
guess he lives in a
you,
hut, and when you think of a
yeah.
hut, you don't think hygiene.
Well, you pointed out in that episode of Kiss, Marry, Avoid that Hagrid probably doesn't have a shower or a bath in his hut, so
Mm.
it's not great for the old hand washing situation either.
Yeah, and like I don't know, he's touching animals and earth. He just doesn't strike me as someone who would use anti-bac.
Mm.
You would definitely be wanting to keep your distance from him. So it's funny because I kind of wanted like a fruit scone when I saw that Hagrid had made the fruit cake things, but
That's
no,
very
that was
posh of
lovely.
you with your scone.
Oh yeah,
I like to
scone.
say scone, as you were so
Mm,
posh.
I am. I fake it a lot. What I thought this chapter was trying to demonstrate is how love is blind. And Aunt Petunia, it says in the book that she can see fingerprints a mile off on the window
Mm,
cabinet, but
mm,
she does not see that her son is at fault and that he's, a bully. She ignores all the reports about him, and she even doesn't see that he's put on perhaps too much weight. He's unhealthy. The nurse has raised concerns. And do you think
yeah.
that foreshadows anything here about any of the other characters in the book? Like, about love being blind or perhaps not seeing people as they really are?
Well, I was just thinking that she obviously shows her love through cooking and cleaning and giving him food. And I think that's probably quite common. It's like you people that have those pets and they're massively overweight. That's how she expresses her love. But the whole bully thing, I just wanted to touch on that. I think that's foreshadowing Dudley's kind of path, like character path, because you remember later on in the books, Dudley starts hanging around with a gang and he becomes a bully, and Harry kind of, do you remember, challenges him and his friends, and um, him and Dudley get into those kind of fights and stuff. So I think this is her, J.K. Rowling, letting us know that actually this is the path Dudley Dursley's going to go through, and that's going to be this kind of turning into a bully, and he's going to be the opposite of Harry, and Harry's going to have to stick up to him and stuff.
I did not read into that. That was very deep and very clever. I do remember when Harry gets invited along to Dudley's birthday party in the past, they're like a little bit annoying, aren't they? His friends, they're a little bit mean to Harry, but I forgot that he does go down that path. I was thinking in terms of, Sirius Black and Harry Potter, their relationship.
In what way, sorry?
Do you think they see each other clearly, or do you think they're a little bit blind to each other, their faults?
Oh, right, okay. I think I've said before that Harry can't see that Sirius is irresponsible and maybe gives him advice that isn't great, and it's always Hermione, isn't it, that has to say, Harry, Sirius is being irresponsible, or Sirius is treating you like you're James. And Harry hasn't been able to see that. And are you thinking that Sirius often looks at Harry and sees James?
Yeah. And there's also that sense of between Mad-Eye Moody. I mean, obviously Harry doesn't know that Mad-Eye Moody is in disguise, but there is that sense of, these people that are supposed to know Mad-Eye Moody, they don't. This doesn't really work, really. I thought, if they love him and they're friends of him, they were blinded. Nah, this is going nowhere. I'm just going to
No, but I
trail
did
off.
look this up. I know what you mean, because I did look up how the hell did Dumbledore not realize that that was not Mad-Eye Moody, because at the end of the day, we can all do impressions of people, but that wasn't an impression that lasted a few minutes. He had to pretend to be a person for like 9 hours a day in company, and he couldn't slip up once. And I just think there's no way even the best actor in the world could keep that up. And I did watch a YouTube video about it, and they argued that actually, well, Dumbledore hadn't seen Mad-Eye Moody for years and years and years. So, and people do change, and they kind of try to justify it that way. Like, maybe if you hadn't seen someone for 10 years, you would forget all their little mannerisms, don't you think?
But then that just confirms what we always thought, that Dumbledore does not even screen the staff before he employs them. He doesn't even have like a face-to-face with them, unless he did with Mad-Eye, but it was like a 2-minute chat over like magical Zoom.
Yeah, possibly. And I suppose Dumbledore's got a lot on his plate, but I'm a little bit disappointed in Dumbledore, because I think, Jesus, you're supposed to be like the most intelligent wizard in the world, and you couldn't see through the fact that that was not Mad-Eye Moody. And also, how did Crouch Jr. know Mad-Eye Moody enough to be able to mimic all those things that he did?
Exactly. Although they did manage to get Mad-Eye Moody drunk enough and then put him in like a little closety coffin thing. So maybe they watched him for a while, or why couldn't Professor Snape read Mad-Eye Moody's mind?
I don't think Snape uses that power willy-nilly. I think that's a huge invasion and breach of privacy, and I think it's probably illegal to use it, isn't it? Like, you can't just go around prying into people's minds like nothing, no boundaries and apply to you. I think that'd be really inappropriate.
Maybe he is inappropriate though, and maybe that's why he hates people. Professor Snape is so cynical and miserable all the time, because he knows what people think and he's just had enough of people.
Or you could argue that he doesn't care enough about anybody to actually bother reading their minds. Like, if you think about it, Snape hates people, doesn't he? Like, he loved Lily. He's got no interest in anyone else. Like, I don't think he would give enough of a shit about anybody to actually bother to want to know what they were thinking.
Yeah.
Can I just add on the whole Dursley family bullying thing? I read this online, so I can't take credit for this, but it says the only thing Harry has in the Muggle world are the Dursleys, right? How depressing is that? Because, we know that Harry Potter went to primary school. It mentions it. He never mentions a single friend in the Muggle world. He has no friends. He has no hobbies. He has no interests. All he has is the Dursley family, and that's why he has no connection to the Muggle world. To him, the Muggle world is made up of this horrible family, and that's it. That's quite interesting now.
That's really hard to imagine because when you're at school as a kid, you have distractions, you have children that know you. So no child invited him round to their house.
Mm.
Or and what, he didn't ever get really caught up colouring, or none of the teachers, ever noticed that he had like a bit of a talent. It's a bit sad.
It is really sad when I read that, and I was like, that's understandable why, to him going to the Wizarding World. Like, do you remember before you were like, but what would you miss? Would you go? And I was like, but I've got things to miss. I've got friends and family and pets and hobbies and stuff. Harry has nothing, nothing. So to him, leaving everything behind and going to the Wizarding World must have been a bit easier than for someone like Hermione, right?
Yeah, that it actually would have been really traumatic if you had a really settled Muggle life. Maybe you were going to go to a private school, and maybe you got loads of friends, and maybe you were training for the Olympics. Maybe you were a really good javelin thrower. You got your
Mm.
whole career. You're really, really happy, and then you find out that you're a wizard, and you're not going to see any of your friends again. Like, they're going to think you've died. Like,
I
that's
guess you,
quite traumatic.
yeah, I guess you don't technically have to go, right? It's not, mandatory. Like you can choose not to, but
See,
that's a hard decision, isn't it?
that would be a good spin-off. And I don't know
Mm.
if it's mandatory or not, because it is a type of policing, isn't it? Having children go to the same school, it's a type of policing, teaching them controlling how to control their powers, what you can and can't do. Wouldn't they just go rogue if they didn't have that schooling?
But I think they could choose to go to a Muggle school because when Dumbledore goes to visit Tom Riddle in the orphanage and he says you can come to Hogwarts, he was like, it's your choice. No one's going to force you. It's your decision. You don't have to come.
Ah, so they do. I would love to read a series of books about children who found out they were wizards and actually said no.
But do you not think that'd be the most boring book ever? Like they could
Yeah.
have gone to Hogwarts, this amazing magical school, and learnt the magical what, but they didn't. The end.
Yeah, they were too nervous, so they said no.
They were
Um,
scared.
and I wonder if their magic just dies away if they don't use it.
We said this before, didn't we? How cool it would be if they did a spin-off where Harry did get expelled in his first or second year. He never learned how to control his magic, and then he gets like a job in an office, and he keeps accidentally like firing off magic spells and having to cover it up and getting into all sorts of like hijinks. Wouldn't that be funny?
That would be funny. Now I'm thinking actually that probably would have been the best thing for Harry Potter. If he'd never gone to Hogwarts, he would never have had multiple traumas, fighting basilisks. What else? What else
But
happens in the
then when
Hogwarts?
he was 16, he left, or 18, he left the Dursleys' house. Voldemort would have just been like, Avada Kedavra, dead, at a bus stop somewhere whilst he's waiting for a bus.
But Voldemort only got into power because that little rat thing, because Sirius Black escaped prison, because he
Hmm.
saw a picture of Scabbers in the newspaper. I guess that was always going to happen, wasn't it? So you're right.
Yeah, I suppose they had to take him to Hogwarts to get him to protect himself. But anyway,
With his disarming spell.
yeah, yeah, just gonna disarm Voldemort to death. Um,
Oh,
so back to the next bit of the story. So Vernon gets a letter. So he goes to the door and he gets a letter. And there's a Harry. I like little attitude Harry now. I think he's quite funny. So Vernon gets a letter and he says something like, so, and kind of in regards to this letter, and Harry goes, so what? And I was like, ooh, Harry,
he wants
meow.
to. He wants to say what, but he doesn't say what.
No.
So readers out there, I'm looking forward to the floods of emails coming through to say that I'm right and Chrissy's wrong.
What?
But I'm sure that he says that he's tempted to say what, but he doesn't.
Oh, okay. I thought he said it in that bit, but what's funny is Vernon's embarrassed because the Weasleys have sent a letter to invite Harry over to the Quidditch World Cup, blah, blah, blah. But the front of the envelope is completely covered in stamps. And they haven't understood how the post works. And the postman obviously thought it was hilarious. Now, something about this bothers me. This is the first thing that bothers me in this vein. And there's some more in the next chapter. Okay. Mr. Weasley I've discovered in this chapter and the next chapter, is absolutely shit at his job. And I think that's why he has never been promoted and why the Weasleys are poor. And he's shit at his job because he literally has one job, and that's to understand Muggle objects and the Muggle world, because he works in the department of kind of Muggle, stopping people turning Muggle objects into magical things. And yet, all the way through, he doesn't have a clue how any Muggle things work. And that's what's bothering me. So he should understand stamps and the postal service, right? For starters.
I said this before. I said that he's really shit at his job. And you're right. In this chapter, when they send a whole letter full, basically, of stamps, that just proves the point, doesn't he?
And
Doesn't it?
also, they're supposed to be poor. Do you know how much a stamp is?
Well,
They're astronomical.
they probably won't be eating 12 dozen bacon sandwiches a day
No,
because of those stamps. They'll probably be down to 6.
they easily spent about 15 quid on that one, on posting that one letter. So, and that, is he stealing items from the office? Is he going
No.
into the magical office and stealing loads of Muggle stamps out the drawer? That's what I want to
Yeah.
know.
Obviously is, because in the next chapter he goes on to say things like, oh, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that, but he does it anyway.
Yes, I've also written down something like that, and I think, oh, I get you. You're just breaking the rules because you work in the government. Not
Exactly.
cool.
Exactly. And what bothers me a little bit is that Mrs. Weasley's probably like, oh, this is absolutely hilarious. Muggles spending £20 on stamps when they could just use flu powder. I'm like, no, we're not that dumb. Like, okay, it's 64p for a stamp, but she doesn't know that there are some parts of our system that is quite effective. And now she's going to think that we're dum-dums and that we spend £20 to send a letter. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. He needs to get better at his job, basically. That's what I've taken away from the book so far. I didn't notice this before.
What I notice in this chapter, when he opens up the letter and he's reading it out, he's so angry. He's really angry, and he says, oh, who's this woman, and what is this, and what is that? But he's proper angry. But why is he so angry about this wizarding world? Because we know Petunia's story. We know that she wanted to go to Hogwarts and she couldn't. But what's the deal with Mr. Dursley?
He's angry because he's embarrassed, because he thinks the postman has noticed that they're not normal. It's the most important thing to the Dursleys is they look normal, they fit in with their neighbours. There's some of the, those people that are scared to look different and to stick out. And he's so angry because the postman knocked on the door and was laughing and was like, oh yeah, where's this letter come from? And he's terrified of people realizing that they're different and they're not normal, which is really pathetic, isn't it?
Maybe he was bullied in the past, or maybe he came from a family where they were like, I don't know, victimized or something, because he has a real fear of being found out.
I think part of it is because he's a very judgmental person, though, and it's something happens in the next chapter where they mention that he's so busy judging everyone else, and he's scared he's going to be judged back, I reckon.
Yeah. Maybe deep down he's just really scared of people laughing at him. He's really insecure.
Yeah, I guess so.
He does show curiosity. I mean, if he really hated Harry as much as J.K. Rowling wants us to believe, he would just not give a shit. He would just say, yeah, you can go. I don't care who this woman is. I don't care what Quidditch is. Quidditch might be strapping Harry to a bunch of wood and setting him on fire. But he does ask questions.
It says in the chapter that he struggles between getting rid of Harry for the summer, which is what he wants, but also allowing Harry happiness. Are we just seeing that through Harry's eyes? And that's Harry's interpretation of the facts. Harry's like, Vernon doesn't want him to be happy. That's why he doesn't want him to leave. But at the same time, he's like, he wants him off his hands.
That's the trouble. When we see things through Harry's eyes, such as Snape, we only ever see them through Harry's own perception, which is a really obvious thing to say, but it is distorted because what we later find out is, what he perceives isn't necessarily truth. So when we think he's jinxing Harry Potter's broomstick in the first book or second book, it's actually Snape trying to protect him from being thrown off his broomstick. Because, it might be that actually Dursley is wanting Harry to leave because he feels uncomfortable around Harry for
Mm.
whatever reason. But he is genuinely like, well, I also don't want him to get killed. I don't want to be an irresponsible parent because I couldn't live with myself. There could be that dialogue going on that we're not aware of.
See, I don't think so. And there's a scene in the later book, and I really don't like this. Harry makes a joke, or might have been a book we've already read. Harry makes a joke that the Dursleys couldn't care if he died, or something like he said, "I almost died. The Dursleys would have been happy." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Ouch!" You know what? Like that's kind of dark and sad, and I didn't really
Yeah.
like it because it didn't feel like a joke. It felt like when you joke about something that's true.
Yeah. I read somewhere that there's no such thing as a joke, or it's just you trying to test out the truth. And I was like, oh,
And maybe that's why it made me feel uncomfortable because it just felt like, well, actually, I don't know if that's
mm,
true. It's horrible to think, isn't it? I mean,
I,
it's,
I, I genuinely feel like he feels like they wouldn't care if he died.
well, I don't think they would, in all honesty. Like when they say goodbye to Harry in the next chapter, they couldn't give less of a shit. And even in like I don't know, is it the sixth book when Harry's like, right, that's it, you've got to go away, you've got to leave Privet Drive because all hell's about to break loose with this wizarding war. And they're like, all right, bye. And I think it's one of the auras that are like, hang on, you're saying goodbye to Harry. You'll never see him again. Like, once more with feeling kind of thing.
Mm. It's really weird to me that they never got attached to Harry. I can't imagine why you wouldn't get attached to a baby.
It makes me sadder. I get why Vernon doesn't. He didn't ask for this. There's no biological connection. He just wants to live a normal life. He feels like he's been burdened by these people he's got no connection to or no love for. It's different for Petunia, isn't it? That's her sister, and that's what really disturbs me. This is the child of her sister who she grew up with, who supposedly she loves. That's her nephew. Like she that's what I find the most disturbing. I can forgive
It's
Vernon, like in one way, because I'm like, well, this has nothing to do with you. This isn't your family. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like that is blood. That is blood that protects, that runs through his veins. And if nothing else, he is the grandson of her parents. So we don't know what her relationship is like with her parents, but you would think, what happened to their parents actually?
I can't remember.
Because that's so sad. Because if
That's
they'd
weird.
lived, Harry could have lived with his grandparents on his mum's side.
Do you know what though? I just remembered. I'm not sure if it's in this book where Petunia. No, I'm sure it's in this chapter actually. Petunia's talking about the family, and she says, "Oh, my parents were so proud of Lily that she was the witch in the family, and they were so proud of her." And she sounds really bitter, and she sounds very, very jealous.
Mm,
So do you think that reason she's resentful towards Harry? She can't stand him because he represents all those jealousies and insecurities she had about her sister being like, special and her parents being proud of her. That's got to come into it,
definitely,
hasn't it?
definitely. I thought that was the main reason
Mm,
that was the main reason. He's a reminder, really, of the life that she was denied. It is really harsh that she didn't get to go to Hogwarts. That would be difficult, wouldn't it?
yeah, but also would you not think that Lily dying and dying so young and dying in such a violent way would make you kind of forgive and let go and like get over that kind of jealousy? Wouldn't that almost be like some kind of closure or something? I find it weird that her sister dying had no impact on those feelings.
Yeah, it feels really petty. If again, do you remember when I had that theory that actually James Potter and Petunia were an item, and then
Mm,
Lily got involved and stole James away from her, and then they had this child together? That feels like the kind of momentous thing that would have to
mm.
happen to for Petunia to have this grudge and then to bring up the child, the love child. But I don't think that happened.
I like it. I like it as a theory, but I don't think we can see any evidence of that in the book, unfortunately.
Mm. I don't think you're looking hard enough, and I think you just dismissed it too quickly.
You could be right.
Does anyone else have any theories out there as to what Petunia's beef is? You know, what could justify her hatred? I do
Mm,
wonder if she's just a little bit submissive and she's just allowed Uncle Vernon to kind of wear her down, and now she's sort of taken on his beliefs and emotions. Whereas if he'd been really loving and really embracing, maybe she would have also been more embracing of Harry.
It does really bother me, and I was thinking about this in the chat when I was listening to it. She, like you say, she's very submissive. It's almost a very archaic gender roles that they've got. So she's the quiet housewife that keeps her mouth shut. She lets her husband make all the decisions and does all the talking, and she just sits in the background and listens and goes along with whatever he says. And it really bothers me because I feel like that's like a 1950s kind of scenario going on. I'm like, I know this is written in the 90s. It does really bother me that yeah, he's the man, he's making all the decisions, she stands by her man kind of thing.
Yeah, don't stand by your man, guys. Stand by yourself. Stand by your own values. And I don't feel like she has many values. I feel like
No.
she's literally just got Dudley or Dudders.
Mm,
I think she's a really caring mum to him, which makes it even worse. She's really supportive. She's getting everyone involved with the diet.
mm.
Um,
Yeah, so they read this letter and Mr. Van and Des is kind of asking all these questions like, what's the Quidditch World Cup? Because the Weasleys are like, oh, we want Harry to come, we've got tickets and he can stay with us for the rest of the summer. And Harry really stands up to Vernon, doesn't he? And he won't let him control him. He's like, there's no way he's stopping me from going. I am going to the Quidditch World Cup. And what he does, he's got quite manipulative now, Harry, is he threatens Uncle Vernon with, oh, right, well, I'm just going to go and finish that letter I was writing to Sirius. And then Vernon really freaks out, doesn't he? He's like, what? Who? You're writing to Sirius Black? Kind of thing. And I was like, oh, yeah, Harry knows what he's doing. He's playing the game, isn't he?
yeah, he's playing the game proper.
Mm-hmm. So it's quite exciting, isn't it? Because this is when we find out that the Weasleys have tickets for the World Cup. So the owl turns up and says, you know, we've got tickets. It's Ireland versus Bulgaria. It's the Quidditch World Cup. And it's a little owl Pidwigeon. Pidwigeon?
I think so. Is this still in chapter 3 or is that in
Yes.
chapter 4?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
still on
cool.
chapter 3. Because Harry goes up to his room and Pidwigeon, and he's like, what is this tiny little fluffy owl? Because he's kind of a
Aw,
cute little owl, isn't he?
yeah.
And that's when he gets a letter from Ron saying about the World Cup and everything. And then he says, P.S. Percy has a job in international cooperation department. Do you think the only reason Percy has been given this job is so that we can learn about all the international relationships in the World Cup?
But why do we need to know that? Because I found that a bit boring.
I think it's quite interesting though, no? Because we get to see
I,
Victor Crumb and the Bulgarians and the Irish, and doesn't that lead into the whole Triwizard tournament though?
well, I guess. Yeah, actually, you're right. That does make sense. So, do you think that's why they've got tickets to the World Cup through Percy's job in international relations?
Oh, maybe. Oh, you think
I,
Mr. Weasley's pulling strings again?
I thought Mr. Weasley was pulling strings, but now you've mentioned that Percy is working for international department. I'm thinking, is that why he got tickets?
Mm,
Because does Percy tell us anything that Mr. Weasley and Ron just couldn't tell us? Does he have
I
insider
guess.
knowledge?
I guess during the Quidditch Cup, because Percy's working with, is it Fudge at this point? Cornelius Fudge, or I don't know who, or is it Mr. Crouch? We get to see all the funny conversations between Crouch and the Bulgarian minister and all the behind the scenes of the Quidditch World Cup, which was kind of funny, but you're right, I'm not sure how important that was.
Unless is he involved in the Goblet of Fire in some way?
Yeah, he is, isn't he?
Or does Percy's position allow us information regarding Fudge that we wouldn't have otherwise have had access to? Because he's
Um,
like
oh
Fudge's
yes,
right hand
yes.
man.
It's Crouch, isn't it? Because Percy's working for Crouch, and we need to know that because Mad Eye Moody is impersonating Crouch, and Crouch gets stunned and stuff, and Percy's like, oh, I haven't seen Crouch, he's working from home, and Percy gets all mixed up with that, doesn't he?
I totally forgot that, but now this is making sense. So he is our eyes and ears on the whole. situation with a
Yes.
crouch.
Did you look up the meaning of Pidwigeon? I thought you would.
No, and now I feel a little bit like a failure because that's sort of my deal, isn't it?
That was your thing. It's not that interesting, to be honest. So I've been saying it wrong for years. I was kind of saying Pigwigeon, and I thought
Mm.
maybe it was Welsh or something, but it's not. You say Pigwigeon, and it just means insignificant or simple or small, and it's supposed to mean small because Pigwigeon is a type of owl, and it can fit in the palm of your hand. How cute's
Oh,
that?
so is an actual type of owl?
No, the word comes from two types of duck. So there's a duck called a pig and a duck called a widgeon, and they've put the name together, but apparently the meaning just means small.
Oh, cute.
Mm.
I think it'd be quite nice to have a little mini owl, except when it's windy, because then it will get flown about.
Oh, do you know what I realised this is though? So pigwidgeon is a very, very small owl, and he can't deliver a post that's heavy. He really struggles.
Mm.
And do you know what theme that is just feeding into?
No.
Everything Ron owns is shit. Because he's poor, so he has dress robes that are really out of date that he doesn't want to wear, that are like the wrong fashion. He's got an owl that's too small and can't carry proper post. He has a wand that's broken. He's got a rat as his familiar that didn't really do anything and had no skills, and he was really bothered about that.
Hmm.
He doesn't like his house. I think he finally gets a broom, but it's not the best broom you can get. It feeds into that thing that Ron is just kind of poor and everything he has is a little bit broken, doesn't it?
It really does. Give the guy a break. But yeah.
Mm. And fun fact, okay, about Pidwigeon, he's not in the movies, but he's in a promo photo for Goblet of Fire. And also, if you watch the Half-Blood Prince movie, you can briefly see him in the background, but I totally forgot they don't include him in the films.
Why do you think that is then?
I guess because he doesn't do anything for the storyline, does he? Maybe.
But then why have him in the background then for Goblet of Fire and Half-Blood Prince?
I don't know. Maybe it's like an Easter egg kind of situation.
I'm a bit concerned because I just Googled Pidgewigeon. Is that how you say it?
Pigwidgeon,
Um,
yeah.
Pidgewigeon, and it says 1994 to 1997. Does that mean he dies?
Oh my God. No.
Because I'm not ready for that. I just got a bit attached with that background.
That's messed up.
Do people know if Pig dies?
Wow.
Oh no, this is awful. This is really sad.
I hope not. Let's just pretend that didn't happen.
Yeah, you know when you sometimes you read something and you wish you'd unread it.
Instant regret.
Um Okay, well, I'm gonna go because it's just making me sadder and sadder now, the idea that he's dead. If anyone could let me know if he is alive now, that'd be great. I'm not gonna look up how he died. I'm not even sure he did
Oh my
die.
God.
And he
It
don't.
was probably windy, like you said. It was a very windy day, and there was
Oh
an
God.
incident of some kind.
Yeah, or someone thought he was a snowball falling from the sky,
Oh,
grabbed him and threw him at something
bloody
else.
hell.
Was that dark? It just
That
came out
got
of
really dark
nowhere.
really fast.
Oh, you know what? If it's Harry Potter's fault, I'm never gonna forgive him.
Oh my God, what if they were playing Quidditch and they just thought he was a bludger and they just whacked him with the bat?
Oh no. Or what if he was sitting in potions on the table and they thought that he was like a ball of corn flour or something fluffy and they put him in
Mm,
the potion and he boiled to death.
bloody hell.
He
Oh my
boiled
God.
he boiled to death.
Jesus, Jesus. Okay, not okay at all.
If anyone, just anyone out there can tell us if Pigwidgeon's okay. We're just worried about him.
I think we've just depressed everyone that's listening now.
I
Well
think that's a
done.
really good way to end this episode.
Yeah.
Um,
Sweet dreams, everybody.
yeah, thinking about different ways that Pigwidgeon could die.
Yeah. Okay, so is that everything you wanted to say about that chapter?
Yeah, that was.
Cool. Great. join us next time. We might be having a Christmas special episode that we are planning to get you into the Christmas spirit, talking about Hogwarts and Harry Potter at Christmas time and all the lovely Christmassy stuff. So tune in for the next episode.
Oh yeah, we're probably going to get quite tipsy. So maybe you could have, a bit of Bailey's or mulled wine, and you can drink along with us if you wish, if you desire.
Yes, that sounds fun. Cool.
Okay.
Thanks
Say
for
the thing at the
listening.
end. Say the thing at the end,
Oh,
Chris.
okay. Mischief managed.
Twinkle, twinkle, twinkle.